For decades, families have been told the same financial rule. Two incomes are always better than one. More money, more security, more stability. But what if that assumption is quietly bankrupting millions of families? What if one parent's entire salary is being swallowed by childcare, commuting, and work-related costs? Today, we're breaking down the math most families never actually calculate. If you're a working parent paying for childcare or wondering why two incomes still feel like one paycheck, make sure to like the video and subscribe, because the numbers behind the childcare trap might completely change how you see work and family finances. The story of Rebecca. Rebecca earns $48,000 a year working as an administrative assistant. After taxes, payroll deductions, and insurance, her take-home income is about $32,400 annually. Rebecca has two young children, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Like many working parents, she relies on full-time daycare so she can maintain her job. The cost for childcare, about $2,700 per month. Over a year, that adds up to $32,400, exactly the same as her take-home pay. Every dollar Rebecca earns goes directly to daycare. She works 40 hours a week, wakes up early, sits in traffic every morning and evening, and at the end of the year, her financial contribution to the household is effectively zero. But the reality is actually worse than that. The costs nobody counts. When people think about work income, they often only look at salary, but working comes with hidden costs that quietly eat away at earnings. Rebecca drives an hour each way to work. Gas and vehicle wear cost about $300 per month. That's $3,600 per year just to get to her job. She also spends around $200 per month maintaining professional clothing and dry cleaning. That adds another $2,400 annually. Because she's always rushing between work and daycare pickups, she buys lunch a couple times a week or relies on convenience meals. That's another $160 per month, or about $1,920 per year. Add those expenses together and the number climbs quickly. Her job requires about $7,920 per year in additional costs. Now the math changes. Rebecca isn't breaking even. She's losing nearly $8,000 per year just to maintain a job that exists primarily to pay for childcare. The childcare trap. This is what economists and financial analysts increasingly call the childcare trap. On paper, dual-income households appear stronger financially. Two salaries suggests greater stability. But when one parent's income is almost entirely consumed by childcare and work-related costs, the second income becomes more symbolic than practical. Rebecca's situation is not unusual. According to national childcare data, the average cost for two young children in full-time daycare in the United States now exceeds $2,500 per month in many regions. For families where one parent earns under $50,000 annually, that cost often absorbs nearly all of the take-home income. The paycheck exists, but the financial benefit disappears. The cascade of secondary costs. Childcare expenses rarely exist in isolation. They trigger a chain reaction of other costs that quietly raise the financial burden of working. When both parents work full-time, there's less time for cooking, cleaning, and managing household responsibilities. Families often rely on convenience services or paid help to keep life running smoothly. Meal delivery, prepared foods, and takeout replace home cooking. Lawn care or cleaning services replace time that simply doesn't exist anymore. For Rebecca's household, these secondary costs add roughly $6,000 per year. When those numbers are added to childcare and commuting expenses, Rebecca's job is now costing the household more than $40,000 annually. Her take-home pay is $32,400. That means her employment is actually reducing the family's finances by about $11,000 each year. Why don't families notice? If the math is so obvious, why do so many families stay in the situation? The answer lies in how our brains categorize money. Rebecca sees her paycheck as income and childcare as an expense. Because they appear in different mental categories, they don't feel connected. But financially, they are directly linked. If Rebecca stopped working tomorrow, childcare would no longer be necessary. Commuting costs would disappear, work wardrobe expenses would shrink. The household would instantly save thousands of dollars each year. Yet quitting still feels like financial loss because society frames income as success and staying home as sacrifice. The cultural pressure. Modern culture strongly promotes the idea that dual incomes are essential for financial security. Career continuity is often treated as non-negotiable. Parents worry that leaving the workforce will permanently damage their earning potential or professional identity. That fear keeps many families locked into financial arrangements that don't actually improve their situation. In reality, the most expensive childcare years typically last only 3 to 5 years until children reach school age. After that, costs drop dramatically. The period when the math is most painful is also the period when parents feel least able to pause their careers. The long-term financial impact. Rebecca will likely pay these childcare costs for about 4 years until both children enter school. If she continues losing $11,000 annually during that time, the total financial loss will exceed $44,000. If that money had been invested instead, it could grow significantly over time. At an average annual return of 8%, $44,000 invested for 20 years could grow into roughly $205,000. In other words, the childcare trap doesn't just affect present finances, it quietly reshapes long-term wealth. Career gaps and reality. One of the biggest fears parents have about leaving the workforce is the potential career penalty. But research suggests that short career gaps during early parenting years often have smaller financial consequences than people expect. Many studies show that parents who step away from work for 3 to 5 years and later return experience moderate salary reductions compared to those who stayed continuously employed. However, those reductions are often smaller than the losses created by paying extreme childcare costs during those same years. For families like Rebecca's, the difference between working and pausing the career may not be as financially dramatic as it appears. Alternative strategies. If the math shows that childcare is consuming most of one parent's salary, families may consider several options. One possibility is temporarily pausing a career until children reach school age. Another option is exploring part-time work or remote roles that reduce childcare needs. Some families coordinate childcare with relatives or share childcare responsibilities with trusted neighbors. Others adjust schedules, so parents work different shifts, allowing one to remain home with children. Every family situation is unique, but the key is recognizing that dual incomes are not automatically the best financial choice. The goal isn't to say parents shouldn't work. Many careers provide meaning, growth, and long-term financial opportunity. But childcare costs have reached levels where working simply to cover daycare expenses may not improve a family's finances at all. For some households, the most rational financial decision during early childhood years may be different from what cultural expectations suggest. Understanding the true cost of childcare allows families to make decisions based on reality rather than assumptions. Because sometimes the most expensive thing a family can do is keep working without doing the math.